Welcome to episode 34 of It's Server Time. This is going to be a very special episode as we are changing up the formula for it. We are going to be doing a post-tournament draft. So what we're going to be doing, as of course I am joined by my normal co-hosts with Mix, Note, Pronogo. I've given them introductions before, and let's just get into the introduction of the concept here, which is we're drafting players. It's a snake draft. So what that means is we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, 3, 2, 1. So basically, if your first pick, you get the first pick and the 8th pick. It's general drafting procedures if you ever do a fantasy league of any sort. And that's pretty. I mean, there's really not much to it, but you're trying to have roles. The rules that go with this are that roles obviously matter. You need to have an in-game leader. You need to have, and it doesn't matter what language they speak. Like they're all just gonna work together. Okay, so it would be too limiting to just like make it. Oh, all the certain players of one team can't even speak English, and then it's just boring because then everybody basically just goes for international English-speaking teams. So everybody can speak every language. I think that's pretty much it. And for this one, we are. Did any of you guys wait a second? Actually, I didn't ask this before, but did any of you guys want people from the play-in? Because I was not going to use anybody from the play-in at all.
Not particularly.
No, that's fine.
Okay, the only person I thought would be Josh, just picking people from complexity, but that's about it. Okay.
Listen,
all right. Yeah.
There's OC available on the main stage, so I can make it work.
Yeah, exactly. You still got it. You still got that going for you. All right. So we got that out of the way. I think those are the rules. This is a work in progress, as in if this goes badly, we'll fine-tune it for another big event, or even if we want to do it again. We'll see. We'll find out. So we did the draft order off of the broadcast. Pronogo, do you want to read who's drafting when? Because this was an RNG, and we all watched it happen. So, Pronogo, you read it.
Completely random.
Yeah.
Completely random.
It's completely random, which is how you know. You know it's random because Mauisnake is going to go first, followed by producer Pronogo, and then rounding us out on third is Note, and last is Mix. So that'll be the order.
In the original list, I was first. Just want to point that out.
We
There's no
re-rolled
original list. I don't know what original. What original?
Yeah,
list?
I think this original list must have been deleted from the chat or something because I don't even see it anymore. So.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Mix. You're acting crazy, dude.
That's crazy.
You're acting crazy. We're not gaslighting you at all. Yeah, no, but we use an RNG for that. Yeah, so we're gonna let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. We have a hard stop time limit on this podcast, so we'll see how this goes. And I don't know. I literally have no idea how long this is gonna take. So, with my first pick in the inaugural It's Server Time draft, I will be choosing Simple.
Wow, that's wow. Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this guy, but he had an outstanding tournament. He won the HLTV MVP. Was incredible until the last couple maps of the grand finals. And really, I don't think anybody can even argue with this pick at all. I know that Josh would have picked somebody else, but I think the other three of us would have gone for this exact same pick. So, yeah, my pick is simple. That's going to be taking up the op role on my team. Overall stats for this event, pretty much off the charts. 1.38 kill-death ratio. Pretty much just destroying everybody. I mean, I think we all saw just how good he was, basically breezing through every team until he faced off against FaZe, and it was just the last few maps where he didn't do that well. So yeah, that's my pick. Pronogo, you're next.
Actually, you pause for dramatic effect before saying it. It's just like, all right, reasonable.
It was pretty good. Who could have guessed that somebody would go for such a pick there? So, well, I guess it's up to me now to pick us up. I will also be making a bold and completely unexpected pick, although actually maybe some people will have it be unexpected, but well, it's going to be visible on your screens shortly. I'm picking Kerrigan as my first.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, you're picking up the pretty much like no dispute best in-game leader right now.
What was the quote? There is no was it there is no dispute? There is no question that we are the best team in the world. There's no question Kerrigan is the best IGL to pick in the world right now. Mostly because of the fact that I have a feeling I'm going to get a grab bag of leftovers, as all of us are. So I wanted somebody who could just grab all those pieces and work them together. And so he's like it's funny because he's you wouldn't necessarily think this, but he is not just the most elite IGL, but also the safest pick here. He doesn't need a specific system to work within. He's not like maybe a Glaive or somebody who like has their own way in mind, and if the players don't work with that, it's not going to go over well. Kerrigan knows how to adapt to the players. So that's pretty cool.
That's all really solid reasoning. No real question here. He would have been in my probably top 2 IGLs pretty easily. Yeah. I don't think I think the first picks are going to be kind of obvious, and we're going to just kind of generally agree with them. And I think there's going to be more debate as we move on in this. So, no, who have you got?
Well, I mean, I think you got to set yourself up with the star opera first. I picked Ziwu. I mean, Simple was obviously first originally in my list, but Ziwu also had a pretty good tournament before Vitality got knocked out. So especially if there's not going to be any language issues and we can kind of just like work right past that, I think it's a pretty obvious pick.
Yeah, I think this was a tournament where he even did pretty well despite the flaws of Vitality. He ended up
as a top-rated player, actually.
Yeah, he ended up with a better overall rating than Simple. But I think what was really impressive to me is his opening kill stats were fucking crazy. 27% attempt rate on openers, 69% success rate. Like this dude's getting you an opener in like what 3 or 4 rounds per half or something insane like that. Like I don't know. That's just bonkers. Or that's like 2 or 3 rounds he's getting you an opener and doing it relatively safely too. So just a guy you don't have to worry about. It's going to be a 5v4 almost every round. Okay, Nix, you got 2 picks back to back. What's your
picks?
What are you going for?
I feel like I got to get an IGL with one of these 2 picks. I feel like by the time I come back around, it'll be lost out. So I feel like Glaive would have been the obvious pick, but I feel like they've been struggling. I'm not sure how much faith I have in him right now. So I'm gonna go with Electronic, who I very much believe in as an IGL and also still as a player. So that's gonna be my IGL pick here.
Yeah, that's a really good IGL pick. I think this was actually okay. Yeah. This was like my second favorite pick, but yeah. Okay, go on.
Okay, and then we really do need a star player. But this is tough. I don't know. This one's tough. There's one between I'm like my bias, and then just keeping it simple. I'm just gonna keep it simple. I got the IGL. We're gonna go with Nico, who I still believe in. My star, my guy. So that's what I'm going with. Electronic and Nico.
Jeez, you were.
That's not how you spell OC.
Yeah, Mix, you were so torn about getting moved to 4th, but I feel like you did the absolute best you could have done with that position in the draft. I think Electronic was one that I almost feel like I was ready to pick as my number 1 because you just get a star rifler and an in-game leader in one pick, which is really
I've got
pretty
a star
disgusting.
lurker and a star player in my pack, my map control. You know what I mean? We're already looking good.
Yeah, your core is already very good. Your 2-man rifle core is very strong already, and you already took care of the IGL role. Wow, okay, all right. Let's move it back in the draft then. Unless there's further comments. Okay.
I was just gonna say I also thought of Electronic, like he was in my list. The only caveat would be that we said that we're not picking any coaches for these lineups, and without Blade, I think that Electronic wouldn't be like an awful in-game leader, but I think there's definitely elements that Blade brings that Electronic wouldn't really have the support of in that case. Yeah, so for my second pick, I took Glaive, best former in-game leader in the world, currently Kerrigan, but I have faith in Glaive to make my pieces work in my lineup. So that'll be my second pick. I don't think it's really that hard to argue against having Glaive staying there. Yeah, Mix dropped out.
There he is.
Good. Oh, okay.
The Return of the King.
Wait, Mix, you switched cameras.
Wait,
what the hell?
Look at this man with the setup.
This is my laptop camera.
Okay.
So that's really all I have to say. I think obviously Astrala's still making a run to the semis here. kind of still proves that Glade still has it. It's just that Astralis as a whole are still working through their own issues. And on top of that, obviously, I have Ziwu. He's not Farlig.
There
End
you
of
go.
point.
End of quote.
Ziwu, he's not Farlig. Okay, wow, that's striking. That's you can't really
Do
argue
I
with
need
it.
to say more?
No, you're good. That's good. I understand the pick. I think Astralis looked. I mean, they looked surprisingly good at this event. So we're not really breaking down teams too hard in the first section of this podcast, and we'll see how much time we have after. But I think it's pretty obvious that Glaive and Astralis put together a very great showing at this event that was missing for the last handful, and we're kind of working off of Cologne form for this event very specifically. And if you judge it just based off of that, it's tough to find too much fault with how well they did because I mean Astralis coming top 4 when no one really expected that at all. I mean that's great. And also, by the way, they had the second highest T side round win percentage of the entire tournament. So unless you believe in Dexter, like because Mao's had the highest, Glaive might just be like statistically the strongest pick there.
Could
Okay.
be.
Chronogo, what is your pick here?
Well, normally under normal circumstances, you guys would have been right. It would have been time to get the Opera out, but you guys already picked, like, besides Mix, you guys already grabbed like pretty much the big ones. So I'm gonna leave one of the Operas on the table that I suspect Mix will end up picking anyway. And then instead of picking an AWP, I'm actually going to pick my and start building up my entry pack alongside Kerrigan, and that means I'm going to be selecting Yakinder. He's obviously a really good looking player at this point, especially at this event, responsible in many respects for helping Liquid completely reshuffle things. There was some interview quote from HLTV's interviews that said something to the effect of they threw everything out. They were gone, just let's rebuild and let's see where Yakinder can take us. And, well, he took him to Cologne playoffs. And even though, yeah, a lot of us feel like they should have defeated Movistar Riders and they should have definitely had the expectation to, all right, well, what can you say? The Spanish side caught fire. Although it's interesting, I wonder how many people will actually be picking Movistar players in that sense. It feels like maybe not too many of them will show up on our list. But either way, Yakinder is on mine. He's just really good. Obviously, he gels with a lot of different teams. He speaks English very well, although that isn't a consequence of this particular format anyway. But just another point in his favor. He's ready to go. And so Kerrigan with that guy is just like a dream team to me.
Can't really argue with that too much. I think like what we saw from Liquid when he joined the team was them finding themselves just playing a more, I'd say, modern CS. I guess their strategy looked more updated. Like, so if basically with Kerrigan and Yakinder, not only are you getting an entry, like basically you're two entry players because Kerrigan's gonna like run in first a lot if he wants to. Yakinder's gonna run in first a lot too. But Yakinder also offers so many ideas that you're going to cover a lot of bases. And even though he's kind of a younger player in terms of not having all the years under his belt, it's obvious that he brings a lot in terms of strategy and tactics that basically you have two incredible minds now on the team. So that's pretty huge. So yeah.
He also has like a really big benefit to team atmosphere in general, I think, in any team he really goes to. So especially in a Kerrigan team. I don't know if we're including like personalities in this in this picking.
It was kind
process,
of a factor
but
when I was assembling the different lists I could put together, insofar as I didn't want, like, well, I guess Mix with Nico might have already
Nico and Elige
I don't
on the
give a
same
fuck.
team.
Yeah. Yep.
There you go.
They'll sort it out. It's fine.
Okay. I'm gonna do my picks now. So for my in-game leader spot, I am picking the one, the only, the inimitable Hampus. I'm going with Hampus.
I knew it was coming.
I'm getting Hampus. I think he's just individually so strong. Space Taker calls pretty good T sides now that I can actually enjoy watching. And I think that when you have a guy like him, now I can just play with my options now are limitless in terms of my rifles that I can work with. So that that's gonna help a lot because my following pick, unless you guys have anything to say about Hampus? No, you saw it coming. What?
I saw it coming. So I did consider picking Hampus, but then I had the same thought as I had with Electronic, which is that Hampus's T sides used to be awful until they changed coaches. And
Yeah.
if we're not including coach impact here, I think that Hampus is. I think for me, like Glaive was just a better pick, but I can see the Hampus pick working out among the list.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad you see it because I know this team is gonna bang. This team is already shaping up really well
It's
because
important one person thinks that.
well, I'll tell you why though. My rifle star, one of my rifle stars now that I have the aggressive space taker. You know who I can get? One of the baitiest F players
Oh my
ever. I'm
God.
getting Blame F. I'm getting Blame F there. Blame F is gonna lock down any spot you put him in CT side. And now that Hampus is there, he can just lurk forever and just join up when the team needs him. You know, that's gonna be it. That's my roster so far. Simple, Blame F, and Hampus. This is balling. I'm balling out of control. Perdogo, take me down. Take me. What are you gonna get?
All right, well, I still don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but I think what I'm going to go for at this point... See, the thing is, like, I see you looking at Nip, right, with the Hampus pick, and I am pretty tempted to also go pilfer some of their players, some of their talent, but I'm actually going to go a different route for this one, and I'm going to be picking up Spinks as my next player. So we're really saving the op for the bottom here for the very, very tail end, but... Spinks, I think, is worth the pick at this point. He's worth the attention. Just obviously, there's been in the headlines, maybe targeted to replace Masuda over in Vitality, which would be a real, like, you know, it was always international for that squad, but the fact that now they're trying to speak, you know, really, really hammer home on the English side means that it does open them up to a wealth of other talent, and that's going to be interesting if it actually does come through. Of course, it'll be sad for Ents, who I sort of quietly cheered for, just by virtue of the fact that they were like the David to everybody else's Goliath, where they weren't spending a crazy amount of money. But Spinks himself is just a revelation of the fact that he's been discovered at all by, you'll say, a lower tier team in terms of their organization. And he's definitely been instrumental in catapulting them to the top 3 position, which, of course, they've recently vacated. But still, something really special about this guy. He's not like... It's interesting because I don't really view him as a particularly aggressive player, but I obviously don't need that when I already have Yakinder and Kerrigan as my particular space takers. Spinks seems like if you really dedicated him to that, like, second or third man into a site, he would just absolutely blow open the whole map. And also, you know, obviously his CT sides are money too. So that's sort of my analysis on why I picked him.
I like Spinks a lot. I think in terms of their CT setup already between Kerrigan, Yakinder, and Spinks, you can already kind of see like Kerrigan and Yakinder are going to make kind of an opening play, and Spinks will be kind of that bailout player for them, where you know he's kind of he can either bait them and be kind of like right behind it, get the trade, or late round he can just find a gap in whatever the opponents are doing. Like I feel like if this were your actual lineup, Spinks would bring back a lot of 3v4 or 2v3 type situations for you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. All right.
Is me?
Yeah. Nope. What you got?
Okay, I'm actually a little torn about my third pick here. So I had to go back and forth between my list, and I think I just have to after how he performed in this tournament, I think I would have to pick Elige as my star rifler. He played far better, like way more to the level that I would expect of Elige, and I think any of us would expect of Elige after Yakinder joined. I think we even mentioned it before this tournament started that Elige's form had taken such a steep drop off in the last like couple of tournaments. Like he still has banger games occasionally, but it just his consistency was not there. So seeing the way he was able to actually like dominate for Liquid in some of the matches they played here, that kind of for me brings him back to the forefront if you have the right pieces to work with, and I think Glaive would definitely be able to work with him well. And then obviously like Z was just so versatile in terms of like being able to rifle and op that I think Elige would be able to work around that really well as well.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, you have your space takers already on this. You've got some really good rotator players. I think. I mean, in terms of the core lineup here, you're you got like one of the best operas out there, and you have one of the best riflers already. And now you kind of can just go for passive players, which means there's so many good passive players, honestly. So yeah. Okay. Mix, you have any comment on Elige before you make your pick?
I'm a bit disappointed. He almost made it back to me. I could feel it, and now it's gone. So, but it's okay. I have a backup. So, I feel like with Electronic and Nico, I got a couple of riflers. They're pretty versatile. CT, T side. There's like an idea of how I want to use them, but I could use another rifler that's also pretty versatile, and I can kind of like move these three guys around. So I'm gonna go with Twist. So
Okay.
another rifler, he can kind of work in the pack. He can lurk. He can, he's a very versatile guy. But all that I'm not left with currently is an opper, and there's still some good operas available. So I'm gonna go with Shiro. And so I have like a lot of space taking at the moment. I have like a good array of like versatile riflers, and now I've got a great opper. So I don't know. I feel like I'm putting together a banger here. But
Yeah, honestly, when I look at your team, it's so disgusting. It is really gross, actually. So, yeah,
one more piece of the puzzle.
I mean, the good thing about your lineup mix is that if like Electronic and Nico both fail, you have some really good closers already too. Like you can't really the only thing I had against picking Cloud9 players at this tournament was just how badly they fell, but I would almost just and in my typical nature, I pin that more on Nafany and the calling.
Yep.
Yeah, than I do actually those individuals. So, in terms of form, statistically, their form was very strong. It's just like their ability to close rounds was not there for them a lot of the time.
I don't really need Shiro to like open rounds for me so much when I have Electronic and Nico and even Twist. Like it's pretty disgusting. So
For sure.
I'll just let him sit back and do himself and pick up 25 kills a game.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. All right, back to you, Note.
Okay. So I had two players in mind for my lurker. And I think that both picks are kind of obvious. Personally, I'm gonna go with Naf because he's from Vancouver, and Naf is just I gotta respect the Canadian on out of the two. I also just think Naf has already worked with the Liege, so they have that dynamic going. I also think Naf's playstyle is just super consistent. You almost never see him like have a bad game. And so in terms of the way the roles would work out as well, I think he would fit pretty well into this team considering like there's not really an overlap with a Liege, Ziwu, or Glaive for him. So yeah, I think that's a pretty solid little rifling core for me.
Yeah. I mean, you got basically you're working with liquid stars with a better IGL and sorry OC, but a better Opper also. So that would already be a pretty fire lineup.
Josh Mix wants to know your location.
I know this feels like a mix.
Siwu over OC? I don't know, man.
Yeah, other than the fact that this is a mixed lineup, other than the fact that Zai was on it, so everything else would be exactly. If you just told me Mix made these picks, I'd be like, all right. All right, Pronogo.
I mean,
Where you
Zywo
at?
can rifle.
That's true too.
It is.
The T side, he probably would just rifle on Inferno. He rifles a lot on Inferno.
I have to wonder. I'm amazed that Mix picked his Opper and it wasn't OC. But then, of course, I failed to realize, of course, he would pick a Cloud9 player instead of OC if he had to pick somebody instead of OC. It all makes sense now. It all comes together. It makes total sense.
It was just too good of a passive Opper available to go with my riflers that I just had to go with it. I just had to make the pick.
All right. Meanwhile, Note over here says he has to pick a lurk player and he's got an obvious couple in mind and he goes with Naf. And I'm so grateful that Naf is from Canada because that means I get to pick Rops, who is obviously got loads of experience with Kerrigan and I think would really help alleviate any sort of like lurk based or timing based pressure. Even good in the clutch, obviously. He didn't have the best tournament here, maybe, or best playoff performance, but like we know just from his past career, he's money, and he's gonna help. I won't say help activate Yakinder and Spinks because they don't really need that much help activating themselves, but it's more like with them not having to worry about those odd angles or those things that Rops is going to systematically clear on CT side and position himself well to do some sort of backstab or to hear those like very faint audio cues that can really help win you around in a clutch moment. I just think he's money for this team, and obviously there's the Kerrigan synergy too, so he's my pick.
Okay. Yeah, yours is shaping up pretty well too. Like
I feel like we all got reasonable rosters so far. You know,
I think that's just kind of the nature of this, actually. That
Yeah.
when you get 20 players out of a tournament, you could kind of just cherry pick some of the really strong
When
ones.
when I was breaking it down by roles yesterday, I looked at this and I was like, "There's no way to make a bad team out of like the list of players there is." Like,
You kind of can't. It kind of has a really hard time doing that. I think there's some picks that I'm starting to hit now where I'm not in love with them necessarily, but I think I'm still generally pretty satisfied. Like for example, I kind of need an anchor player now, and I don't really love all my options because Mick's got twists, and I mean I'm kind of looking at Axile like statistically, but I think I might have to get Axile here for my anchor, just because he is still very strong, but like with how bad Cloud9's tournament was, I almost don't love going for that pick. Honestly,
it's all right on CT, but on T side, you already got Blame F.
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, the T side role overlap is kind of messed up right there for me. So I'm gonna kind of go scraping a little bit lower in the barrel now, and I'm this is where it gets tough. This is honestly where it starts to get tough. I think I'm gonna go with oh god. It's really tough. I think I'll go with oh, I can't get Zipnik. No, he's too bad. He's too bad. He's actually just not strong enough. I wanted to do it because I felt like role wise would be really good, but no, I'm gonna go a little bit better as an individual. I'll go with Magisk for my anchor. Think he's still. It's a little weaker than I would have wanted. I feel, but I don't think T side Axile and Blame F makes sense, and I think Magisk is such a good pack player that if Hampus kind of opens up the space, Magisk can be right there with him to do that. So I don't think that's I think the T side roles make a lot of sense for my team, and that's why I went there. But now I just have my fifth pick I have to make, and that's where it also gets really hard because I don't know exactly what rifler I'm looking for because I kind of have fit every single role right now, other than maybe like a really support type player. So then I'm kind of back to that idea about Zipnix because I think his tournament actually looked pretty good overall until I guess the very end. So I kind of in between Perfecto and Zipnix here, and I think I'm gonna go Perfecto actually. I'll take Perfecto. It's another kind of anchor player, can play bad spots, and I think on T side just isn't gonna mess things up for anybody. So that's kind of yeah. I'm not in love with it. I feel like it got kind of weak for me at the end here, but not everybody can be a star on every team. So yeah, Magisk and Perfecto are how I round out my team.
Well, you made it somehow.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that you didn't go for some of the other picks that I felt like were available. I mean, I guess you were really zeroing in on roles, right? So
yeah, I didn't want to be disingenuous about how I felt the roles would break down. Which I mean, like statistically, I could have just picked Axile or Rain, but like they don't actually put. They kind of overlap with roles already on positions and things like that. That's how I'm thinking about it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to the point about Zipix, he could have gone for him just on the basis of his tournament was okay up until like he had a reasonable appearance if we were just going to stick with the Cologne results themselves. But It seems like,
Yeah.
the other option was better for like longevity's sake. So if you're thinking into the future beyond just the one tournament, makes sense. So.
Yeah. I even deaths also at this tournament did pretty well too. Like these are all support players I was kind of thinking of. And they all statistically kind of ended up in the exact same spot. So it's kind of hard to parse what I would love to see or love to pick there. So yeah. Yeah, all right. Prinogo, it's I'll stop lamenting over my decisions and let you go here.
Yeah, sure. Well, this one will be quick. This is my opper, of course, but it's opper in question marks. It's going to be Brokey. Obviously, a guy who's not known as like a top tier opper from this normal style of op, and he's obviously not a bang out like Munacy, simple type, Zywoo type either. The point for this guy is that obviously he's worked with Kerrigan and Rops very, very recently. Some may say he's still working with them to this day, and he's obviously got a very unique aspect to him, and that I think Kerrigan knows how to activate at this point. So I do kind of feel a little bit cheap the way that this sort of thing worked out, because I just subbed
Phase
out twists.
2.
Yeah, it's phase and then I -2/+2. But when this was what I was either going to pick Brokey or Osi were the two that I was going back and forth with, and I just picked with what was already proven at this point. So I'm kind of being a bit lazy, but this is my FaZe does all the work getting to number 1 in the world and making it so there's absolutely no question that they're the best team in the world. And then I'm like, you did this, and then I like slap 2 things on it. I did this, so that's me. That's FaZe.
Okay, you basically did build FaZe, but basically everybody pre-Pro League was like minus rain plus like Yukindar,
JKS or whatever,
or any of various options, and now you kind of built that, but just because you couldn't get Twist, you got Spinks. So I don't think anybody's even. Well, actually, no, wait, you had the option to get Twist, but you just went for Spinks, right?
I'm trying to remember the exact way that it worked.
Yeah, no,
Spinks I think
Spinks,
so. Yeah,
Twist was on the board, and you went for Spinks instead. So you just had more faith in Spinks, and I think role wise that actually is fine. I think it's overall pretty. This is a pretty strong team.
Well, when I had the option to do Rops, I was like, well, that makes sense to do. Like, I wasn't even sure if I was going to get Rops, and then at that point, I knew nobody was going to pick Brokey, which is why I saved them to the end, because I let everybody else get their oppers in, and I knew that was a fallback position if I didn't have a good opper as well. So I kind of had a strategy, but yeah, I don't know. The way that it bore out here at the end is like, oh, he's not doing FaZe. Oh, he is doing FaZe. So whatever.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll talk about everybody's teams more in depth after we finish the draft part. Okay. So Nohte, your last pick here.
I'm super torn about this last pick, because my debate when it came down to this last spot, when I ended up with Glaive, was whether I wanted Glaive to be my main entry or whether I wanted to get a player that would actually be like more focused as an entry. In that sense, if I was to do that, I would have gone with Patsy.
Ooh, wow.
Because he's a fucking sick player.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Patsy is just I personally just really like Patsy and the way he approaches the game. I also think that he's super young and has so much room to grow that I think having him on this roster with the kind of experience of Glaive would be able to really, like, he's already sick, but it would super elevate his game over time, I think. But that being said, I think that I'd actually be fine with Glaive being my entry player. Because my 5th player is actually going to be Bit. And he's going to slot in there. He didn't have a sick Cologne, but he is the perfect man to go in with Elige and Glaive in my entry pack.
God. I'm so pissed I let Bit slide.
I can't believe all of you let Bit slide. Like, how did it make it back to me?
It's so criminal. It's so criminal to let Bit be basically a last pick here, actually. Yeah,
imagine.
Okay.
Imagine.
I like your team a lot too. And yeah, despite Bit not having the best tournament overall, he still what did he do? Actually,
he was like a 1.7? 1.07?
1.06. He had a 1.00 KD actually. So what were his headshots not hitting this tournament? Is this what Bit's like without good headshot? Nope, he still had the most headshots and the highest headshot percentage at the tournament. So,
Classic.
yeah, classic Bit right there. All right, Mix, you got a 5th pick.
Yeah,
Let's hear
so
it.
I needed. So honestly, I probably would have gone with Perfecto because I feel like what my team's missing right now is I got 3 like really good riflers, but I need someone that is just gonna be able to just fill and just do whatever. So also in the slot would be a floppy, but of course
No play.
not on
Yeah,
playing.
yeah.
So I need someone that can just be my 5th role player, and he can just move to whatever spot, he can do whatever role, and he's not gonna really give a shit, and he's just gonna do whatever, right? So just looking through the players, he had a bit of a bad Cologne, but I was thinking Zipnix at first. I was thinking that could be a pretty good pick, but it didn't feel like the right pick. So I'm actually gonna go to Shush from Heroic.
Oh,
So he had a bit of a bad Cologne, but I feel like overall he's just really good at that role,
yeah.
and it's a
Yeah.
nice way to fill out the team.
Yeah, Shush is kind of like the modern Zipnix. He's kind of just better almost in every way at almost every tournament nowadays, except for this most recent tournament. So yeah, he was someone I kind of thought of, but just because of his Cologne form not being very strong, I knocked him down a couple pegs. But yeah, I don't think you can really complain about what Shush did because even though his HLTV rating wasn't that good, 0.89, he still had a 0.92 KD. And when you look at a lot of the people that had even better HLTV ratings by a significant margin, like 0.15 better at like he had a better KD than some of these people. So like he's still doing his job. He just doesn't get a lot of impact on these sort of positions that he's in. So yeah, I think I like the Shush pick. I think he kind of went in this draft. He kind of is it's a good last pick to round out the draft. I'll just put it like that. Okay. I'm still happy with mine, but let's start rating each. Okay, the way I wanted to do this now to progress is that first we're going to kind of talk about each other's rosters, but then we're going to make a bracket that's just seeded 1st pick versus 4th pick, and then 2nd pick versus 3rd pick, so we actually have like definitive answers on these things. So let's just do the bracket. Let's just do this bracket now. So basically, we're gonna pit Mix roster versus my roster. Okay, and the judges are Note and Pernogo because you guys are impartial. You should be impartial on this, because
Okay.
you're obviously not competing in this. So, how about we'll start with this. We'll both give cases for our rosters Mix, and then they'll decide. Okay. So,
Okay.
I can start. So, I think my roster doesn't need much explaining when it comes to the op roll. I don't think there's much to say about the fact that we have the GOAT, we have Simple on Maui's Money Crew, and the thing is that when you look at how this team is going to achieve victories in rounds, you have so many different win conditions round to round. On T side, you have multiple space takers. Already, you have Simple, who's going to call his own number when he feels like it. So, like, let's say, but the game plan is going to be based off of what Hampus wants to run. And for Hampus wanting to run a game plan, it's going to be a little sneaky. It's actually gotten more refined since DJL. So if he takes any of his learnings from DJL, you're going to have some like nice, solid, fundamental strategies about getting map control. But they always have a little bit of a twist to them. And that's where people like Blame F come in. That's where people like Hampus himself come in. And that's where Simple just decides every now and then he's just going to go for another pick that maybe the other oppers in this tournament wouldn't be going for. So you have a few guys like that. And then you think about the guys that usually are there to mess things up. And you have Magisk, like when you move down this roster, and Magisk is not, he's still incredibly solid as an individual. And now that we're not talking about language barrier, he's going to even do better. He's going to do better now because he's thinking in his own native tongue because I'm making up all the rules as I go along in this tournament. And then Perfecto as what could be another, like a third in, or just going to throw the nades, or it's going to be kind of between him and Blame F, depending on where they go on the map, for who's going to sometimes like end up lurking in a round. But hopefully most of the rounds are designed around Blame F being that closer lurker. and Perfecto to just kind of be a solid third in, sometimes fourth in, kind of a shitty role for running in, but either way, it's gonna be good. But I mean, the closing argument for me is that I have Simple.
Okay.
All right.
Strong
So,
case.
so,
Very strong case.
so starting the argument for my team and against his team is that he has 4 people that just aren't gonna shut the fuck up between Simple, Hampus, Blameth, and Magis. Okay,
Like
they're all
you
like,
started off not by bringing your own team into it, you just shit on his team.
okay, you're gonna have Simple. Okay, I've seen this guy on LAN on stage. This guy talks more than his IGL. At least when it was Boomish. I don't know about now. But this guy is talking the entire round. Campus is also like a super loose guy, so it's just gonna be like all over the fucking place. Flame F is gonna be like calming to like bait everyone as like they're like on the other side of the map and like
Yeah.
Simple's trying to call something and Blame F's telling them to go faster so that he can like come out behind them or whatever. Magic will like be there and just like get annoyed because they're not Astralish or something. And then I mean Perfecto will be like pretty solid because I mean he'll just sit there and he'll probably just like be like laughing at them or whatever. But yeah, just an absolute fucking mess in terms of who's talking. All right, my team, you know, it's not super defined. Obviously, Electronic very new to calling, but I feel it's something he's been naturally growing more into. Something he was always gonna give his own shot at. So I feel like he's just a natural at it. You know, he's just great at everything he does in this game, and he'll be a top IGL as well. Nico hasn't really been as much of a problem in G2, I feel. You know, especially he just sticks to like his lurking roles. He's been doing that. It's great. He'll get to do whatever he wants. Shush will just fill. And Twist, you know, he won't have all the space in the world for himself. You know, he'll probably have to sacrifice maybe a few CT spots for Nico, but that's okay. He'll have his other spots. He'll have his anchor spots that he still likes to play on certain maps. He's great at doing whatever on T side, in my opinion. And then I have Shiro. I mean, I have Nico just lurking that can open up the map just by himself. I have Electronic and Twist entering together, you know, taking map control, just looking for fights. These are 2 of the best duelists in the world. They're just gonna shit on people together. And then I got Shiro as the closer, you know, in the back lines, just getting frags, doing whatever he can. You know, I don't know. I feel my team is just very well rounded. There's a lot of versatility on CT side, so if things aren't working, I can just switch up the roles around a little bit. They'll still make sense. They'll still be pretty good. So yeah, that's my case. My team's more well rounded. I feel the communication will work much better. Yeah, you know, I think I made my argument. Thank you.
I like that.
Okay.
I like the fact that Mix started off with the shit talking. just did.
He spent
Bring
more
your
time
team
shitting
down.
on Alex's
Okay, so I have to shit on Mix's lineup now, just a little bit. So the thing that won't work with Mix's lineup is that when their T side is down 0-6, Nico will tell Electronic he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and that he's gonna start calling around himself. And then everything's gonna get out of whack because Shiro won't know what's going on and he's gonna start crying. And then you're gonna have Twist that's like, guys, what the fuck? We should just do this also. So like that's gonna be how this team actually crumbles, because when they start on T side, they're gonna run into a wall of Simple and Blame F, and even if they get past them, you got some sick anchors in Magisk and Perfecto. So there's no T side that Electronic or Nico are gonna call that's gonna get through this defense.
That's just not true. You see, Electronic's gonna have some ways to like pressure Simple off. They're gonna be in like the same parts of the map. They're in the parts of the map where you get all the kills, right? So they'll just pressure them, and then they'll just leave like Perfecto like alone on A with like 20-second rotates away, and then my boy Nico is just gonna come out and one tap this guy. Then like we just have free sights. Like I don't know what to tell you.
All right. Okay. Let's just open it up to Nohte and Pernogo. Okay, where are you guys leaning with your guys with this?
You
What do you
know,
think,
when Mix started shit talking your team, I did start seeing some of his points and siding with him, but then I remembered that you have Simple. So just naturally, I think the points you just made regarding Mix lineup, I think also ring pretty true. My only issue with your lineup is I don't believe in Hampus as the in-game leader of this team.
You believe in
I just-
Electronic more.
No, but I also don't believe in Electronic more. I don't believe in either IGL without their coach, helping them a little bit at the very least.
Yeah,
So-
leadership is a mess on both of these squads, I think.
So if I leave that out, I think for mix, you're just gonna have Shiro like sitting there like in T spawn holding an angle, and then like when he finally looks away at 20 seconds, Blame F is just gonna be behind him anyway.
Yeah, but then
So
I have a
it's like-
legion. I have. Oh, sorry, not a legion.
You don't
sorry.
have a
I Twist.
legion.
I have
No,
a
you
legion.
don't have.
I have
a-
electronic.
You know
that's what I was
no,
saying.
No, Mix,
That's what I was
Mix, you're done. You're done. Alex
That-
wins.
that's
You don't even
bullshit.
know what
That's
players you have. You're done. Alex wins.
I got
Okay.
electronic. I have I have 3 of the best riflers in the world, and you're gonna tell me they can't they can't hold a candle to fucking Blame F? Like, what is this?
That's not what I said.
Blame
Now
F
he's
is just gonna timing them.
now he's misrepresenting my facts, which gives me even more reason to side with Ali.
Okay.
My lineup is superior. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Pronogo, where are you seeing these lineups clash?
Okay, so I do think it's one of the most interesting angles to me about this, if it were an actual team, is how like it's the Nico on one half of the map on T side and Twists on the other alongside Electronic. That does seem really sick as far as like ways to build a T side. I do agree with what Note said about leadership, but I think that's true for both squads. Although maybe the fact that Nico has been a sort of by all accounts has been a source of issues in the past. But I don't know. We also started this off saying that we weren't going to worry about communication issues, or everybody's just going to hold
Just
hands.
language.
No,
just
language
language.
Oh, just language. Personality still counts.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. In that case, I mean, you know, it is a tough call, but we also have no
All
way
I'm
to
saying
tie
is
break,
Nico
so-
never took IGL duties from Alexi B.
No, he just took his job. Right?
No, he just kicked him from the
Okay,
team.
Yeah, that's something completely different. That's valid. But he never once was like, okay, I call now.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
so
all
he's
fun and
changed,
games until
reformed.
Nico. It's all fun and games until Nico takes Shiro's op, though.
No, that won't happen.
I
It's all
don't
good.
know.
I hope
you
to
didn't,
God
you
that doesn't
didn't even
happen.
sound confident about that. You didn't even sound confident.
I guess because we don't actually have a tiebreaker formula set up, I will actually go with Mauisnake. But Josh, I want you to know,
I can't believe this.
in reality, I think your team would probably edge out a victory like 19-15 or something.
Well,
We can do a bit of a tiebreaker. We can use Twitch chat for this.
Twitch
actually.
chat, okay. Let's see.
Yeah, we
True.
can. We
All
can use
right.
Twitch chat.
So if I cast
don't-
my vote for Josh, then we need a tiebreaker, and I don't know how we're going to calculate that, but I'll
How do
leave
we-
that to you.
we
How
can run a poll, maybe.
Is there a
poll
poll
thing?
option? We could do a straw poll.
Well, can't you just do a poll in the chat?
You can.
Isn't that
I
a
didn't.
thing?
I didn't know there was a thing to do that.
I'm pretty sure there's a thing to do a poll.
There is. If you type /poll in the chat, you can set it up. I don't know if you want me to do it or what.
You do it. 'Cause
Yeah, you did.
I've
You're
never
more
done this
familiar
before.
with it.
Yeah, I've never done a Twitch chat poll.
What was I gonna say?
Just do it for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes or something like that, and we'll just kind of watch it as it updates.
We could also use our very random system. That
No,
we
we're not going to use the
this.
random number generator. This has to be decided by some committee.
And Alex is coincidentally gonna press it 3 times until he's first, until his team is suddenly the winner.
Wow, that's just toxic. Okay.
All right, the poll
Oh
is up.
wow. Okay. Oh.
Wow, next
Okay.
is
I'm looking. I'm voting myself.
You're
I'm voting on my own
yourself.
poll.
Yeah, well, I'll cast my vote the
Okay.
same way that I cast
Yeah,
it in
same.
yours, so.
All right.
So-
Well. So wait. Did you leave it up for how many minutes?
2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. Okay, we'll look at the end of the 2 minutes. While people are voting, I think I need to give another reason as to why my lineup is gonna win. And let me remind you, first of all, I have simple. Second of all, I think we're underrating how decent Hampus is as an in-game leader, and I think we're overrating how much of an in-game leader issue, or how we're underrating how much of an in-game leader issue Mix's team won't have without a coach. I think that's my main thing. Like, I wanted to get electronic too, but to put your faith in a guy that just started calling when he has a whole
At first, Electronic was like a potential #1 pick for Maui, but now apparently he's not even better than Hampus. So I just want to point that out.
let's not remind the viewers who are now responsible for our
I don't
roster's
know.
destinies.
Kind of
Where
crazy how
this
that
is-
happens.
Okay. Okay, I think this poll is pretty much done. Actually, I don't think there's going to be
Yeah.
a shift in that many votes that fast. So all right, Nix, you got it. You took it. You took it from me. All right, you move on in the bracket.
Someone
do like
make
your-
me their GM.
I think your core rifle trio is like honestly crazy. If I want to give some plaudits to the lineup that you put together from the 4th pick position, so
That's a scary team
congratulations.
to be in the server against.
It would be a terrifying team to be in the server against. Now that I officially lost, I can just say that I think your team is better than mine. Actually, I think it is better. I think my like I wanted to be really specific about roles, and I think I probably just don't need to do that next time because Magisk and Perfecto, like I could have had one of those guys, but having both
That
makes this
was
team feel
a
weak.
bit questionable.
Yeah, it feels too weak, even though I know the roles would work very well. It's just not worth it on an all-star draft like this. Okay.
I was just surprised you didn't get bit for one of those.
I mean, the thing is that I think Bit plays. I guess he kind of plays some good positions actually that would have helped here. Yeah, Bit wouldn't have been that bad. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think Bit would have been better than Perfecto. Actually, I'll put it like that. If I got that 1-for-1. I don't really need 2 anchors. You know, you just get 1 anchor and everybody thinks you're gravy. Okay. All right, Note and Pronogo. We're gonna move on to your teams. So let's start with who was earlier in the drafting order. Okay, Pronogo, you were earlier in the drafting order. You're gonna defend your team first. Feel free to shit talk Notes in advance.
See, no, I feel like we have to be the bigger men despite being beneath them in the overlay. And I'm going to say that you have a very nice looking team. However, my team is already mostly proven. And in fact, if you count how proven the new additions to this roster are, then they're even more mostly proven. And so there's not really much theory crafting you have to do. You just have to sub out Twists and Rain for Yakinder and Spinks, and you get, there you go, easy 4 phase. I don't know what, you could workshop some name out of that, probably. Obviously, Kerrigan is the greatest IGL currently active, and it's kind of fitting then that he'd be going up against Glaive as like the sort of legacy greatest IGL, the GOAT of all time for most people, right? And then you obviously have Yakinder fragging out with the entry pack, Spinks and Rops working together on the more passive duties, with Spinks being significantly more, I would say, than Rops in terms of like aggression. But you know, Rops already has started to morph his game. I remember back many episodes ago, Mauisnake himself was saying, "Oh, I'm the chief Rops hater," back in the mouse sports sector of time. But since then, I think we can all agree he's leveled up his game quite a bit under Kerrigan's tutelage some more, as well as the change of roster. And then Brokey, I mean, he was last picked for a reason, no hate to him, but he was somebody who I knew wouldn't receive a lot of other attention. And even now, like, you don't really see him having a ton of attention from people because of the fact perhaps that he's not a traditional opper, but I think he fits this team just perfectly, just like he fits FaZe perfectly right now. So there you go. That's my defense of myself, I guess. Good luck.
Not a bad defense. All right. Well, here's the thing. You wanted this gentleman's agreement. We'll see how far I make it into my description until I have to start shit talking your team. It's once I start losing, you know, any points of my own that I have to kind of shift into that. So,
Gotcha.
first of all, here's the thing. Glaive has a vast amount of experience working with competent operators such as Device, and I think Ziwu plugs almost directly into a similar style. He's able to also shift and be a hybrid aggressive player. He can also rifle. So for me, that's very similar to the way that Device used to work in his prime on the old Astralis. So I think that as a duo already works really well together. And I think Glaive's system will be able to put that together and put Ziwu into positions where he can excel. On top of that, you obviously have Elige and Naf with the dynamic from Liquid already. Elige is gonna, I think, play very well under a system where you have someone who's able to op and support like Glaive that Ziwu can, on top of Glaive building layers into their defaults. I also don't think there's really a positional clash between any of these players. And then you have Bit, who comes in as he has a little bit of overlap with some positions, but I think the fact that Bit on T side is able to go in as part of that entry pack is going to give you so much more power in your hits because you're having Elige, Bit, and Glaive coming at you on the site. You have Ziwu in the backlines opping. You have Naf who's going to lurk and or just come in as well, like in a much more fast paced like default. So I think out of that, you have so much firepower combined with a good match of roles on that lineup that I don't think that like you have 3 of FaZe, but then you have like Yakinder and Spinks. Yakinder obviously has a ton of experience. Spinks has a little bit less so when it comes to big stages. Obviously this year they've gotten much more, but I think the fact that you have so many versatile players who have so much experience on my lineup would kind of outweigh that in the sense that I think Spinks is extremely talented, but I don't think that he would be able to stand up to the level of pressure brought on by how much Glaive is building his system into this game to kind of exploit some of those holes in your game. Also, listen, Kerrigan had Rops before on mouse sports. Didn't go well for him, so I don't think the Kerrigan Rops duo is necessary.
They won a lot
necessarily
of
100%
tournaments.
safe.
They won a lot of tournaments.
Listen.
At the end of 2019, they won like everything.
Listen, we don't talk about that. That was pre-online era. This is a new world.
Pre-online era.
This is a new world.
I might agree with you on the adaptability side with your versatile players there, except you have Glaive as your IGL. And we saw how long it took him to get Astralis to a playoff berth of a big event. It was just now, and it was months and months after.
And lucky.
Doesn't matter much when the point is it takes him a long time to build up a system that actually works with new players, and now you're giving him 4 new teammates who he's never worked with before. I mean, come on, man.
You're right. It is hard to work with 2.8 rated players. Can't imagine.
But it is going from Lucky to Ziwu.
Yeah, it's impossible. Obviously, Lucky would have way more comfort with Glaive, and then Ziwu, obviously, like he's just too aggressive, man. He does too many things. He wins the game by himself too much, and Glaive can't have that. So that's probably
can't deal with it. I think Mix. Let's talk about their lineups. Who are you feeling more as it stands?
As it stands, I am feeling Note's team just a bit more. Maybe I'm biased because of the NA. But also, I don't know. I just feel like Glaive with Ziwu is just so good. Like you already have that, and then you have a rifling trio of Elige, Naf, and Bit. Like that's kind of disgusting. Like
I know. I'm pretty torn on this too. I think when I look at their teams, I think that the role overlap is worse with Note's team. I think they'll step on each other's toes like a little bit more. Like, but I also think that Pronogo's team, I think Spinks is kind of just a little strange in this, but it's not that bad either. But I feel like
it's giving him time to fill out his game a little bit more. I mean, Note even called it out earlier. He's only recently gotten more arena experience, right? But the point of this team, I think, is that like now we get to see how much of a star he truly is, right? And I think you've seen promise of that. You've seen little fragments there. He's like the only unproven angle this whole squad has, especially with all the interplay they've already got down the years. So,
yeah,
I mean, you pitched it as if you're setting up a squad that's unproven. My team's proven. That's all I'm gonna say.
God, it's
we're trying to pick title-winning contenders here, Pronogo, not teams that have to prove themselves.
I think Pronogo's is pretty proven. You got 3.
It is.
Yeah, Kerrigan, Robs, and Brokey who have done a lot this year already.
It is. I will say, I think for me, the T side roles will be pretty okay. The overlaps would come in a little bit more on CT between Naf and Bit, but I also think that both players are so adaptable that I really don't think it would end up being an issue at all. Like the amount of spots that Naf has played over his career, and the fact that Bit is also so willing to learn and sit there and like grind demos as simple as sudden interviews, I think that would never really be like a long-term issue at all for this team.
The problem is on your roster, the only member of that team has actually won something recently is Bit. So That's what gets me, is that your roster is like, if we take the really good players from that really had a lot of their success earlier in their careers, and you put them up against players who are either on the rise, like Spinks, and to a lesser extent Yekindar, who's obviously been around for a longer, and people who are currently winning majors, currently winning big name events. So it's like old school versus new school in a way, especially with the Glaive versus Kerrigan debate. But I mean, I just think Kerrigan's better than Glaive, hands down.
Listen, Pernogo, your argument can't be that you picked 3 of FaZe who have won everything this year.
What I did is I picked
But I think it's a strong play.
I think
it's a
players
strong
that
point,
nobody
but
else
listen.
picked. I picked the last 2 players on FaZe, or on my team were on FaZe, and you guys had plenty of opportunity to grab them. So I just I see the diamond in the rough. Okay, I look down at that number 1 team on HLTV that just won Cologne, and I think, somebody could do something with you, man. If they just tried a little bit harder, if they sanded off the rough edges, you could be something, and that's why I have the team that I have.
That's not untrue. Let's even break it down like this mix then. If I'm kind of leaning Pernogo's team, but just barely, and you're kind of feeling Notes. Let's think about like the veto here. Pernogo's team wouldn't play Vertigo. Note's team would probably not want to play Mirage, honestly. And so what does Pernogo's team would be kind of gross at Inferno, actually. And I think Note's team would be really good at like Dust, Overpass.
This team on Overpass would be so good.
Vertigo.
Well, yeah. It
gets
permanent. I think Note might have the map veto edge actually with this. Okay, who wins on Nuke? Nuke Decider for all the money, all the marbles. Oh, dude, I think I have to take
like 23-0, like whatever the 27-0, whatever their fucking streak was.
That's old news, dude. Who won recently on Nuke? Wait a second.
On Nuke? Dude, Alicia and NAF have banned Nuke for a while, actually, now that I think about this. Yeah, I think I have to side with Pernogo's team because I think they win the veto, actually. That's where I'm going with this mix.
Wait, how are you like, I have 3 maps, he has 1, and now he's winning the veto? How did this happen?
Well, I won the decider, dude. I won the decider.
Glaive would want to ban out Mirage. Elysian Naf would want to ban out Nuke. And Kerrigan's team could play every map but Vertigo. Like, legitimately every map. So that's where I'm kind of going with that. And I think... I don't know. I think that even... I think Pernogo's team... I was going to say Kerrigan's team has, like... some maps that they'd even be specialists on with this roster. Like Nuke, they'd be disgusting at. Except Yekindar doesn't play Nuke, but I think beyond that, they'd be fine. And then that's it. That's the only weak spot I see in their veto. Or just like a Nuke Yekindar, but everything else is so good about it. Mix, where's your head at?
I feel like, I don't know, even now, I might have to slightly lean with Pernogo's team. I see it's still tough though, because I feel like when Glaive is playing like decently, Kerrigan is like by far the worst individual in the server. I feel like that's very important when like 2 top teams like this. I mean, Zero with Glaive is just so nasty. Like,
yeah,
Glaive used to be a monster when Device is still around, and if you're gonna have the impact of Ziwu like matching that, basically, dude, I think you're gonna have Glaive able to have some impact too.
Should we just Twitch poll it? Because I think
we still Twitch poll it. Yeah,
we have to Twitch. Okay, let's Twitch poll it. Can you set that up, Pernogo, again? Yeah, I'm really on the fence, and I think I just
think with like a stacked team like this, I take Zaiwu over Brokey.
Yeah, that's a big difference maker here, but I think that it's in some ways I look at Pernogo and how he drafted, and I just think that Rops was like such a massive steal where Pernogo got him in the draft. Also, Note got Bit pretty late, also, but Bit kind of had a kind of poor Cologne, so I see why he fell so far in this draft, and it just kind of, whereas Rops, when Pernogo got his last 2 picks in Rops and Brokey, it's just like, wow, that just fit the team so well in so many different ways.
Who could have known too that those 2 would work so well together with the other players? That's crazy. Yeah.
Okay, I could have grabbed Rops instead of NAF.
Yeah. But you went for the NA. Listen, it was actually really smart of you to go NA because of this show. Of course, the panel that's going to vote is going to be a little bit more interested in that Elige NAF duo. See where NA's stars go, but. Well, I think unfortunately Twitch chat is not very NA minded. So
That's
Yeah.
it's just unlucky sometimes,
Okay,
It's really because they hate France. Why do you guys hate France and Ziwu?
yeah, that's gotta be the real reason here. I mean, yeah, I think I'm going with Pronogo on this one. I think Twitch chat is going with Pronogo too. This is getting, there's still some time, but
No. This is
it's
definitely
it's
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 doubled.
Pronogo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's doubled. Okay, it's like 70-30, pretty much. All right, we're moving ahead then with Pronogo and Mix, which means that. How about this? Just shit talk each. We already know why your teams are good.
that is
We know
true,
why your
yeah.
teams are good now.
So this is
we
the
have to-
hype content that happens right before, right? Like Mix and I are like the managers / coaches of each one of our rosters,
Yeah,
right? And we're
you
the
need to
ones who
both
are
be the
going head
Henry
to
G.
head. Yeah,
You
okay.
both need to be the Henry G of your rosters right now.
Well, that
So,
means I'm instantly better because, for one, I don't have a long-term career in this industry, and for another, well, I mean, Mix had a past experience with Henry G. All I have to do is be like, "You want to buy some NFTs?" And Mix instantly gets shell-shocked, PTSD. Oh my god, one of the worst.
There's a lot of
experiences.
trauma when you say that,
Yeah.
actually.
So, that's just it. I mean, just look at my roster. Look at the top pick there, Kerrigan. Look at the all caps man underneath him, Yakinder. I mean, these two have such a good positive attitude, anti-choke at this point, that it doesn't matter how unproven or shaky Spinks might be, which I think is overblown anyway. The guy's a legend. And then it doesn't matter that Rops and Brokey maybe had not a great Cologne or maybe not be the most typical traditional players in their roles. Just look at the success FaZe had, and now imagine players who might not actually be entirely better role for role, pound for pound. It's more that they allow Kerrigan to specialize even further. Like Mauisnake said, he made some of my points for me about the map pool. And then we come to Mix. Leadership, a disaster. I mean, imagine Electronic without Blade. Imagine Nico without, well, I guess you can imagine Nico regardless because it's Nico. Breadhead himself is definitely going to be baking something, and it's definitely going to be Electronic's career, I'll tell you that much. Shush. I like how, by the way, I'm the first person on this whole panel to say Shush's name since Mix picked him. Nobody else commented on it, even when Mix and Mauisnake were both talking about
that's
Shush.
why he's perfect. That's why he's
Nobody
perfect.
said, Mix is like, yeah, look at my team, and went down the first four and then completely forgot about Shush, and nobody else brought him up, so that's good. I'll give him a shout out, a little bit more support than he's getting from his own GM over there. And then, yeah, I mean, Shiro, tough luck, buddy, but you're on C9, I think you'll be okay, and that's it. That's my few words.
All right, so first of all, let's point out that by far the worst player in the server. Okay, at the end of the day, like you gotta like headshot people, right? And the worst person in the server, not even close at doing this, is going to be Kerrigan. Okay, this guy is just a bot sometimes. Let's be real. Sometimes this guy's like 5 and 20, can't buy a kill. Okay, just an utter fucking disaster. And let's talk about these players' performances at Cologne. Okay, Yakindar finished with a 1.05 rating. Okay, this guy finished with a -3 KD, and you're telling me this is your absolute just star player?
Yes.
This is how it's gonna work. And then who else do you got? You got Spinks, unproven. The one events Ents made finals or whatever. Okay, he wasn't even fucking there. Okay, they replaced him with Snacks, and they had their best event. Okay, so let's keep that in mind here.
Yeah, he was hungry.
And then Brokey and Rops, I think are both pretty good. Rops was pretty meh at Cologne. That wasn't incredible. But Brokey, I'll give it to you. Brokey's pretty good. But the thing is, your best player is still the second best at his role in the server. He's not as good as Shiro. So he's being outclassed by Shiro. Okay, I've got Electronic, the guy he's been building his IGL role for his entire career. This is what he's made for. He is built for this. He's gonna do it well. Especially with a team like this, he can't go wrong. Okay, he can do whatever he's doing with twists on this side of the map, taking map control. You're on your CT side, you got your setup coming, and then you got utility coming in, and you got gunfights coming in from Electronic and twists. You just a lot of the time you're just not winning that. And then you got Nico just taking advantage of that. And then just to fill all the spots around my team to make sure that my 3 riflers, Electronic, Nico, and Twists, are as comfortable as possible. You have Shush from Heroic, one of the best role players in the world. I don't know. It's just where's the weak spot?
Well, I will say that because you commented Spinks being unproven, you at least know his name, which I was convinced you didn't know Shush's name until just recently. So he's on
been
your
around
team
for like 2 years, over 2 years doing this shit.
Yeah. Well, or over 2 years, but check his rating at Cologne. Check his lower rating than Kerrigan. Lower rating than Kerrigan. So let's talk a little bit more. I wanted to talk about the Yakinder point. You realize what Yakinder was doing at this event, right, Josh? He was doing what NA always dreamed of doing, finally making a playoffs at Cologne, with this Liquid roster that hasn't been there for so long. And just imagine the idea.
The Cologne before this that had fans was literally won by Liquid. They won the Grand Slam.
That was a long time ago, right? It was a long time ago. And since then, they haven't been able to replicate it. Yeah, don't matter that there wasn't another one since then. Just think about the fact that they haven't been able to replicate it in over 2 years. I mean, geez, come on, NA. Come on, NA. You're better than this. And I'll have my last point. Kerrigan and Twists have history, right? They're on the same team right now. Think about who the more cerebral player is. Yes, Twist did have that one match against Liquid after the transfer where with the information fed to Kerrigan, he was able to instantaneously, they were basically like 16-0'd them or something like that. It was crazy sights on Nuke. But try doing that to Electronic. Electronic will just stare at you and go, what? And then Kerrigan, on the other hand, he'll have Twist dialed into a T. Unless Twist completely reinvents his game, there's pretty much no way Kerrigan doesn't know how to inform the rest of his team how to deal with that. That's one of your players neutralized. Nico and Electronic will take care of themselves just with the infighting. And Shush and Shiro, I mean, emphasis on Shush, they'll be quiet. So,
see, it'll be fine because, Electronic, he's been, calling for like a month now? Like, if that. And in his second event, calling,
reading off of the paper.
And his second event, he already goes toe to toe with Kerrigan. Okay, and almost beats this guy as with a new player with a new fifth and some Young. This guy didn't do too well to Cologne, and yet despite this, in a best of 5, he didn't quite, but he did almost outcall Kerrigan and won a final just like that. So he's already proven that the potential is there for Electronic to be one of the best IGLs in the world. I'm taking a bit of a chance, but in that chance, I have one of the best riflers in the world as my IGL, taking the space, getting the frags, doing whatever he needs to do.
All right, well, all I'm just saying is your famous caller got 2-bulleted in the head by Twist himself to lose that grand final in 5. I think that might carry over a little bit of karmic debt there, and I think he might be not so happy about Twist being on his team. There might just be another size of infighting. Just saying, could happen.
So one thing I wanted to say that I totally forgot when I was going up against Pernogo is that Spinks and Rops have a bit of a role overlap too on T side. So I think that could be a little issue there too.
I trust Kerrigan will be able to neutralize any role overlaps. This guy got JKS to a grand final.
Reasonable.
Kind of true.
All right.
I'm kind of like thinking about this in a couple different ways where I do that like player v player thing, and I think Mix wins on almost every front. Like
yes.
IGL v IGL, it's pretty obvious. Entry fragger versus entry fragger. If you put like Nico versus Yakindar or something like that, it's kind of not even close. Or even Electronic versus Yakindar is still edging for Mix. Then you put like that late round player, and maybe you do Twist versus Spinks or Twist versus Rops, and I think Twist generally has more impact. But then Shush is where Mix lineup falls off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think Op v Op, I think Shiro is better than Brokey right now.
Depends on the style you're going for, right? Brokey's very different with the way that he gets his impact. Mostly closer range stuff in my experience watching him than the more traditional long range, just tripwire angles. So it really depends on how you use him. It allows him to be specialists on maps like Ancient, right? Which, by the way, should be removed from the map pool. Completely separate argument, but
different point. I do think that there's something to be said about having a real IGL though for having Kerrigan over Electronic. That's where I think Pernogo's lineup kind of wins, but it's not. It's just one facet right now. It's not. I'm not saying he's winning. I'm saying that if I have to think about like what team on paper do I think is going to win a tournament tomorrow better? Probably Mix. What team do I think will actually probably sustain success for longer? Probably Pernogo's. And I don't know. And I think because this is a tournament that we're just playing against each other, I think I might just give this to Mix right now.
All I'll say is, you remember when Kerrigan almost got Envy to the major. This is NA Envy we're talking about. But
he
didn't.
didn't.
But listen, he almost did. And that's a miracle unto itself that they were even in contention. If you guys remember that Astro lineup, dude. Man, what money was that guy paying for Nifty? Do we still not know? Do we know? Is there any information?
Like JDM, Cutler, Drone, I forgot who the fifth was on that team. Was it Nifty? It was Nifty, and then Nifty and Kerrigan.
No. They dropped. I think.
Listen, this is a sideshow.
One of their players.
This has nothing to do with.
No, it was
Kerrigan.
Nifty. It was Nifty, JDM, Kerrigan, Drone, and Cutler.
There you go.
I'm like,
yeah, okay.
It's only a sideshow if I'm not right, but I was right, so it's totally relevant to the point that I was making, which is that Kerrigan can take any roster and win you a tournament tomorrow. He's famous for being known as the guy who can just immediately adapt. You think JKS was pracking with them when they went on that miracle run themselves when Rain had to get subbed out? I'm just saying, like, Electronic reads stuff off of a note card prepared by Blade, who's not in this roster. I don't know that he can realistically go up toe-to-toe against Kerrigan unless they already have everything prepared beforehand, which I don't think is in the cards for this.
But do you know that for a fact that he's just reading off a card that Blade F that Blade has for him?
Well, after their strats got leaked, yeah. It kind of called out opening setups, and then the thing is that obviously they have to mid-round, so... When I look
Kerrigan's got to do everything though, and he can. He's proven it.
I think for mid-rounding voices, you have Electronic and Nico on Mix's team, whereas Pronogos has like 3 guys in Kerrigan, Yukinder, and Rops can all help a lot in that respect. Oh man, it's really tough.
I personally am actually leaning towards Pronogos a little bit.
Yeah.
I think to your original point, yes, the 1-to-1 draws between Mix and Pronogos, I would lean towards Mix in most in terms of like player to player. But I think overall,
here's all I have to do on this team. Here's all I have to do. Okay, I just gotta get Mirage. I just have to draw the rotates to mid, and then I can just go be on Kerrigan every single round and win every time.
just targeting Kerrigan as an individual.
I think for Pronogos lineup, it meshes better together as a whole in the sense that I think I give Kerrigan the edge in pedigree as an IGL over Electronic, and we also don't have to like speculate as to whether there would be the impact there as an IGL without Blade. So I think Kerrigan has already proven he can kind of go into any team and just set it up to be a contender. And I think the fact that he already has 3 phase players in this lineup, plus Yukinder and Spinks, kind of just gives me the edge that he could easily convert that and make Yukinder and Spinks have like considerable impact in this lineup as it is. So I think for me, I edge it towards Pronogo, but just barely, not by a ton. I would say if this is a grand final, it'd be like 3-1 for Pronogo, and like 2 of the maps, like there'd be like an overtime in there and like a 16-14 kind of deal.
Okay, I don't think we need Twitch chat on this one. I'm gonna go with Pronogo also.
Wow.
I'm going with Pronogo.
When Electronic becomes one of the best IGLs in the world, the best IGL in the world, and then we come back and I will be vindicated for choosing Electronic in this moment. And we will know that my team would have fucking slapped.
Yeah, well, that's a discussion for another day, because Pronogo's lineup is the champion of the inaugural It's Server Time Fantasy post-tournament draft. We got to work on that name a little bit. It's a little bit of a mouthful there, but yeah, Pronogo, what do you have to say as the victor here of the tournament?
It was more hype when Kerrigan did it, but we fucking did it in here. You know what I'm saying? So that was the major.
Okay.
If nobody remembers.
No, I didn't watch that tournament.
Okay. Yeah, thanks to Twitch chat, by the way. That's my other sign off. If we have to do shout outs, it's shout out Twitch chat and shout out OC for not being on any of these.
Yeah, okay. I want to put a couple things forward that I found were pretty interesting about these drafts. One, we didn't pick a single Movistar Riders player. like where's the respect? Where's the respect for those guys? And I think we know we don't have it yet. Also, we didn't put any Maus players in this. And I thought that
realistically, I feel like Torji was the only player that would have had a
Yeah.
chance in there.
Yeah, I think Torzy would have been an interesting pick, but when you have the oppers that we have, the only opper that I would see maybe doing better than is Brokey, but like with Pronogo having the phase synergy going into that, it's kind of hard to just pick Torzy over Brokey. But if let's say he was down to a Shiro / Torzy pick and you needed a more aggressive player, you could definitely have gone for Torzy there.
So you would go Torji over Monacy or OC or James?
See, not really, but
Yeah.
but like
He's
just
just
in
so
terms
far
of
down the pecking order in operas. That's the problem.
yeah, exactly.
I
It's
thought about
just if
Monacy
you-
for Brokey instead, but I went for Brokey just because all the proven stuff, right? And I guess that helped me out because that was one of the key reasons why the panel decided to go with my team, although just barely. Maybe Monacy would have won hearts and minds even more, but it felt like a risk.
Yeah, I just think yeah. I mean, uh, yeah, I don't really. I mean, they're pretty similar actually. Like in terms of where I see them right now. I think just like yeah, just kind of like the team success. I still I don't know. I don't really. If you guys had to pick one between Monacy and Torzy today, I think Monacy has been doing it for more tournaments straight,
Yep.
and Torzy
Yep.
kind of just had a breakout tournament. So I don't really. I can't like. I guess the form at Cologne, if we're being hyper specific, is edges to Torzy, but I pick Monacy still. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Wait. Do we have Patreon questions?
I will have to answer that question as soon as I find out.
Okay, you figure that out, and then let's. Okay, what are some other? There were some other things I thought about when I looked at these. Let me look at some of these players. Okay, so like actually, there was a couple. One point that I think is maybe worth making is maybe draft strategy, or also like maybe just a rule we should have in the future where you can't pick 3 players from the same team because I think it's too easy to
Yeah.
visualize how good
Yeah.
Pronogo's team is just
Probably.
because he got 3. But also, this could be like our fault for letting him get these players. But I also like I don't know. None of us were really going to take like Rain or Rops. Really,
I
like,
could have taken
or, I
Rops
mean,
instead of Naf.
I mean, Rain or Brokey is what I meant to say. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I don't.
I agree with that though. I think not picking more than 2
3.
players from the same team makes
Yeah,
sense.
3 is a lot. So I think that's okay. Next time we do this, if we do it again, I'm gonna make sure we follow that rule. Also, I don't think we picked a single Brazilian player. So why do we hate Brazil? Is another factoid here. That's
Something to
But, like,
consider.
I think
Isurado was on my list of star riflers, but I mean, that
Yes.
just didn't make sense to pick over who I had already. So
yeah, he was
like,
gonna
I'm
be
not
my
picking
closing.
Isurado over Elige right now.
He was gonna be a closer rifler for me.
Yeah.
But then I got Blame F, and I think that's kind of hard to argue with today. So yeah, for what else? I think those are like the main things I noticed. Just no Maus and no Movistar players is just probably the strangest thing to me though. But it makes sense. So, okay, we have the Patreon questions ready. We can get into these. We have 3, and then we'll do shout outs, and then we'll be finito with this. Okay. Actually, you know what? We we have more time than I thought in terms of all this. Let's do the Patreon questions first, and then let's do like if you have any other thoughts about Cologne that get stimulated during this, let's just talk about them briefly because we do have a little bit more time than I thought. The draft didn't take as long as I figured it would have. So first Patreon question is from Fursock, and he says, "What is your criteria for someone being a superstar as opposed to just a star player? How many superstars would you say there are in the world?"
It's a tough one.
I mean, it is actually a pretty tough one. I think superstars are so conversely to stars. I think superstars are just ones that can shine regardless of like the situation they're in. Like they don't necessarily need anybody to set them up for something. They're also like individually and so they're mechanically and mentally just gifted in that sense. Like Simple, Ziwu are absolutely superstars. Device, I would say, was a superstar. But outside of that, like that's kind of like when you get past that, that's where you start getting a little bit more hairy in terms of where you want to draw that line. I think for me, superstar is like I would almost say it's overused in the way
Yeah.
people use it to describe teams. I think there's a lot of star players for teams, but superstar, like by definition, by the name, has to be something that exceptionally stands out among the mean. And you can't have a superstar on every team. Like teams
You're
have
right.
2 star players, but a superstar is like a LeBron. Like it's somebody who stands super far out from the mean. And I don't think that like a lot of teams don't have superstar players.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. I'd say that a superstar more or less transcends what, like, every team by design of the team, practically speaking, has a star player.
Yes.
Even if they are not, even if they're not like regarded as, people would say they're a star like beyond their team. Like Dumao is the star of 0 Nation by design of how that team works. He's kind of this closer. Lato and a couple other people like will run in before him, and then he gets to be this closer in a very favorable situation for himself. It makes what he's doing is obviously very valuable, but his job looks easier because the team designs itself to make his job what it is. And superstar, I think you already said, kind of like there's only. I'll answer like kind of the last part of it, First Ox question, where he says, "How many superstars would you say there are in the world?" I'd say less than 8, probably less than
Yes.
8.
Yes.
And if I had to name them, I would probably say like Simple is one. I would say that Axile might be in it's kind of approaching that, but I don't know
Miles,
if
yeah, he's like
he's
on the fence for me.
he's a fringe case, or yeah, he's an edge one right now. Zywoo definitely is.
Nico,
Nico.
probably.
Nico is. Um, maybe there's less than 6. Maybe there's less. Maybe there's only like 5-ish or something.
Alige? Yes,
I would
no?
I would have said a liege. I would have said a liege like before. I felt like he didn't. No, I might still put him there. It's kind of like longevity in the role is important, I'd say, and
Yes.
Elige I think has attained enough status. Also, there's a little bit of narrative in this. There's a like you can't just be like where Axile and Shiro don't reach superstardom for me is kind of the lack of, I'd say, some ways narrative in terms of like their impact, and that's not actually just narrative. It's like literally what they're doing in the game and accomplishing all the time, because statistically they're superstars, but in terms of like carrying a game, putting it on their back and doing it in multiple tournaments, I've only really seen that from Axile now at Dallas, where he really put the team on his back in some super tight games, whereas I've seen Elige do it actually a handful of times now. So I probably would put Elige there.
Honestly, that might be it. Like just
Yeah,
looking
everybody
at the
else is
list
a
of
bit
top
too
30
new, I
teams
think.
right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I mean, unless you want to include like electronic or bit
Yeah,
or
Electronic would have been, but I think Bit not doesn't have the longevity yet, where I'd say he's a
yeah,
superstar.
agreed. Other than
Like,
that, yeah, I mean like device I think would count, but
yeah,
he's
Device would have
obviously like
counted.
who
Yeah,
knows where he is right now.
Device definitely would have been a guy I would have put on this list. People that I think are kind of fringe, like will be there soon, and this is me even dropping my bias. I think Rops is right there. I think he's pretty close, but I wouldn't put him yet as a superstar. I'd say that Axel, Shiro are right there. I think Spink's right there. No, actually, Spinks doesn't really have the longevity for
Yeah,
me,
he's
if
still
I'm
a bit
being
too
Yes,
new.
Sphinx is too
Maybe
new.
if
right.
Yakinder was like, if he comes back up in form, he might actually start to be on that fringe case too. I would say he's got a harder
Yeah.
job rating wise, but I think he delivers on it. So there's a possibility for me.
Yeah. Other fringe players for me, like Brolin slash Brolin or Rez, like in a while could be, but like they're not there yet. Uh, Yuri slash Caserado again, like
Yeah.
they're stars, but they're not superstars. Uh, in a weird way, Tabson is kind of approach has kind of like gotten to a point where it's like it's so hard to give him like a superstar status, even though I'd say in a lot of ways him and Surson are the stars of that team.
Yeah.
But like, it's just like we know his role. In some ways, Kerrigan is actually a superstar. Actually, when I really think about it, it's just the value he provides is so obvious. But because of his role and his stats, it's very hard to like want to consider him as a superstar. But I think if I lean really hard narrative wise, he is a superstar for me. Like all narrative, not in terms of output,
I
but
mean, that depends on your definition of superstar, though. I
yeah,
feel like that's not necessarily accurate. Like, I would put Kerrigan more in like, I wouldn't say he's a superstar, but I would say like he's, I don't know what word to use for it, so like I'll just use the
yeah,
word like legend in that
yeah,
sense. Like he's not a superstar, but he's one of like very few players who provides way more impact in what he does than anybody else in the world. And I don't think, I think superstar for me is like a very specific term as to
yeah,
like somebody's impact. Um and for me that impact has to be individual as well. Like it can't solely be like what they bring, because I think that has a different definition behind it. But I agree with you in the sense that Kerrigan is not in the same tier as like most other players. Like he and like a select few other players should have like their own kind of um
yeah.
named group.
Yeah, it's like okay, Kerrigan and some of the people we just mentioned would be Hall of Fame players,
Yes.
but that yeah, it's different than saying not everybody. Actually, pretty much everybody in the Hall of Fame would be a superstar, but like this is like how Counter Strike can be different than other sports or games. It's just like we know his impact is so great. Yeah. Okay, I think we've answered that one pretty strongly. Unless anybody else have anything, Dad? No. All right, we're good. Adam asks, who is your favorite classic NA ESEA Pro League team, and why is it Wabbit with the three Subboys? I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who Wabbit with the three.
Neither do I.
Okay, I'm gonna look at some
I
older
do remember
seasons.
that.
Oh, really?
I do remember a Wabbit when I used to watch
Yeah,
Wild.
I have to look
Well,
at some older ESEA seasons here.
the team that always sticks out to me during a question like this is either that like Elevate team that didn't last very long. That was like
Oh yeah.
XP3, Storm, Roka Rush, and Elish.
Hmm.
That's a fun one. Enemy with Kusta.
Okay.
That's another fun one.
Yeah. Those are pretty strong. ESEA invite. Um, when was when were they calling it ESEA invite? Or does he mean like the teams that made it through? ESEA invite was like CS Source, wasn't it? Did they really
It was a little bit of
Um,
CSGO as well. It
Oh,
was
okay.
Invite for a while,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it was?
Until like 2015 or so, maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But also, I feel
Uh,
like even 2015 is kind of classic at this point.
yeah, okay, I guess you're right. Well, I'm not really sure. Okay, if I just look at like Premiere season 22, oh, that's 2016 though.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was also looking at 22, but
what is the
I mean,
oldest?
there's Muffin Lightning for the name. Like
Sure.
that's a
Well,
vintage.
that one's always just the fucking best one, right? Because they had the North American minor at the
Yeah.
E League
Uh-huh.
Studios that year. So you saw like the Muffin Lightning one though with like the Eli Manning face on it and
Oh,
like the
okay.
E League Studio, and it was just
Oh,
the
okay.
most absurd thing.
Okay, I found a season of it. I found ESCA season 13 invite. Okay, when we look
Oh
at
my
when I look
god.
at some of these lineups, okay, I'm starting to remember some of these teams. You had like Mouth Spaz, the like Cutler lineup with FNS and mainline. Yeah, this Quantic team with Days, Frost, Hiko, TCK, Semphis. I think that one's pretty legendary, honestly. What they become later. They become Complexity. So that might be up there for like one of the most impactful all-time ones. And then you had like Team Dynamic, which was a Dran, Volcano, Nothing, Swag, AZK. That team was, I think, always worse than the Complexity lineup, which is why they picked up Swag from Dynamic and then they replaced
Wait,
what?
hear me out though. High Rollers Gaming with a core of Warden, Summit, and NAF.
Harden, Summit, and Nav. I like that.
Yes.
That's one of those teams where it's like, did that really exist? But as you've confirmed, it does. So, yeah. Okay, I mean, I would probably go
Holy
with
shit.
like Quantic then. Yeah, I think that's a kind of a crazy one to think about. Just in terms of like, I remember even watching some of the games and what they did, and like they would like because the mollies had like infinite travel time where it just wouldn't blow up in the air. They would like molly the top of long pit on Dust 2 so that they could kind of know the guy wouldn't go into pit as they did their early long takes because they could throw the molly right from spawn apparently. So I remember like I don't know. That's one of the few tactics I remember of teams from that long ago. So that's gonna be my pick on that. All right. Bill is asking. Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna say my favorite team would have to be the SOAR lineup, like the old SOAR lineup.
Who's on that?
It was Snakes, Grim.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Snakes, Grim, MCE.
This was Snakes, Grim, Voltage, MCE.
Yeah, Voltage, MCE, and then I don't remember who the fifth was.
No, MCE was a
that
player.
time. Yeah, but that was 4
Snakes,
people, no?
Grim, Voltage, MCE.
MCE.
Oh, and Exceed.
Yeah,
Exceed.
and Exceed. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. X-Sleep.
Classic. X. This is so fucked up. Why'd you have to do him like that?
Because he fell asleep. No one forced him to do that.
True.
That's one of those mistakes where it's like, it's not like it's someone he made a. It's not like it was a decision. It's not like someone externally necessarily pushed him to that. You know, like he just took a nap, and it was relayed to me that he just decided, "Hey guys, I know our match is in a couple hours, but I'm gonna take a nap first."
Yeah,
like, that's
I heard the same thing.
word for word, pretty much. So it's not like I don't feel like I'm doing him dirty, but okay. Bill asks, so Navi's nuke strats were leaked recently from a photo. What do we think? Simple responded and said there's nothing special in these papers. Thoughts?
Of course Simple would say that. You have to say that if your strats get leaked. It's like reflexive and compulsory. Yeah. Just try to make it so that nobody's going to look at that and say, oh, this is actually valuable. Of course, it's kind of like, there's not really a point in saying it in a way. Like, I understand why Simple said it. But if there is actually something there, then people will have already data mined it and gone back in like demos and said like, oh, did they call this strat ever? That's like written on this piece of paper. And I'm pretty sure people found some stuff. So probably not nothing then. But unfortunate that it got leaked. But at least it was like towards the tail end of the season, right? And so its impact will have been minimal. I guess they can't really. They have to be maybe a bit more judicious on using those strats in the future when they come back from the break, but. Besides that, I think most people will have put it out of their mind by then.
I get the like fact that their strats were leaked in that sense, but I don't think that it has that much of an impact.
Yeah.
In the sense that if you go and look at the person who translated everything into English, there's a post where somebody did that and all the strats were there. And a lot of the stuff was just stuff you could get from watching the demo.
Yeah.
Like it's essentially like the same kind of thing that any analyst would kind of like, if you watch a demo of Navi playing Nuke, a lot of the stuff that was written down on there is like stuff that you just write down that you see them do. Like SDY goes and spans like Mini while Electronic goes outside and throws this smoke. Like that's like, it's not super complicated. It is in it does suck in the sense that like, yes, it's a little bit easier to kind of like have it all there, but it also happened like at a less impactful time overall for them. And also Navi are a team that do shift their strat book a lot tournament to tournament. So in terms of like the teams it could have affected, it's probably like a decent case that it was them out of everyone. But yeah, I think like obviously it sucks to have your shots leaked like that, but get a notebook, please. Like, like these players are getting photographed by everybody. Like,
yeah,
if you highlight it out there on top of your table and there's the photographers taking pictures, inevitably it's going to happen, right? So.
Yeah, I wonder. That's an interesting angle. I wonder if they'll start grabbing like stuff to put on top of the papers while they're
also to note. Like there have been times where there have been papers on the table like this. But a part of the reason that they got leaked this time is that both of the photographers HLTV had at Cologne got new cameras, so they were much more high quality photos that were coming out. with better light balancing. So like before, when we'd taken photos, the picture, like the actual text, didn't get picked up that well. But now the what they have is just so good that it's able to, like, you can zoom in and just flip it and read everything.
Camera's
So
too good.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Also, from my perspective, I would say it doesn't really matter that much, especially like now that you're going into player break. Navi's gonna have time to like when they come back, like change
Yep.
things around. If you like tried to like master these strats or something to like anti-strat them, you'd probably just get hit with things that look similar, and then they just do something else, and you're kind
Yeah.
of just fucking yourself over more than anything. So it doesn't help. That doesn't help too much.
Yeah, if this were released in the middle of the tournament, or
Yes.
even like the day or two before the grand finals, that's when it's really awkward for Navi, because then they either decide we can just run these strats, even though it literally kind of gives tells, like it says on some of them, like simple smokes the door for us and he flashes to check outside, or like there's just particular smoke protocols that then become very easy for teams to pick up on. And there's this kind of unfortunate truth about this stuff, but like, Mix, if you're the analyst for a team and you say, guys, when they smoke this, it means this, that like some of the players honestly will just be like, yeah, that's great, Mix. Thanks a lot, dude. But then
Yeah.
if they're like, wait, this is on Blade's strat book, then they'll be like, oh, guys, pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. Like, this matters now. And it's like, it actually
Yeah.
gives, in a weird way, it gives a bigger leg up. And I'm sure pro teams do care about what their analyst says, but I also know they kind of don't sometimes, because analysts will put together pages and pages of anti-strat material that after a while you're like, just give me the key points. And if you get the key points from their opposing team strat book, that's where it fucks everybody
Yeah.
up.
For me, it's like it's more just about like building up a like a vision so that you kind of know what to expect to like some extent, and you can just make better natural decisions off of that. And then like every now and then there might be a tell where you're like, okay, we should actually like specifically do like this rotation or this reaction to something. But a lot of the time it's just, yeah, like just be aware of this. You don't necessarily have to do anything a certain way, but a lot of times it's just like if you know about something and you just like have an understanding of it, naturally you'll just like kind of rotate better and play off each other better, be on the same page more, that type of thing.
I will say two. I don't want to say benefits, but I think like two positive sides of this is that the community gets to actually see exactly what, because like you always see on stream these like a lot of coaches, a lot of teams have these papers and like notebooks that they're walking around with, and obviously like they're kept very hidden. But I think like getting a sneak peek into like what a top team actually has written down is like uh it's just like a cool thing for the community to be able to see, like, for once, because obviously like you hear a lot of people talk about strat books, but you like, for obvious reasons you don't get to see it. So I think having that come out once is kind of interesting from that side. It also, like, the fact that it happened at a less impactful time is important, because like now Navi know like
Yep.
not to leave their papers on the table like mid tournament like that. Like maybe they'll get a notebook or whatever or something to cover it. I had one other point, but now I forgot. So take it away.
I have a question, which is, at what point, like, I kind of view the Blade notebook or Blade stack of papers being handed out and just left on the table while the pros are playing as like a weird way to sidestep the fact that coaches can't talk until there's a timeout, which is fine. Except if the spirit was to stop teams, like obviously the spirit of the rule is stupid, and we all know it because it's just Valve saying like, oh, some people won't have access to coaches, and that means that they'll be at a disadvantage. It's like, yeah, well, some people have access to worse coaches or better coaches. Like the whole thing is incoherent as an argument. But if we're going to say that that's why we're following this rule spiritually, like that's the spirit of the rule, then surely having a sidestep where the coach basically downloads their brain onto a piece of paper that everybody else can read at any time during freeze time, it feels like they're just sidestepping it. And I don't know, I'm not saying this as like a way to decry Navi specifically. I'm just saying like either we're going to see everybody start to do this or more people start to adopt the system, or there's going to be a rule, right? Like,
I mean, Navi aren't the
I still
only team
think-
to do that though.
Like the thing is, you can do that without a coach. You still like
Yes.
are gonna have strats even if you don't have a coach as a
Yeah.
team. The main thing that like the coaching IGL thing was like big on is just being able to call mid round. I feel like it's like even like freeze time. I feel like it'd be nice to have the coach to be able to talk, but obviously they never want to do that. but like it's specifically in the mid round, and even if like you have like all this like stuff like laid out in terms of like what's supposed to happen in the round, when you have guys like Simple and Electronic, like they're gonna have a pretty easy time like adjusting it and like changing it up, kind of like how they have to rotate and everything. So you can't really just like think for everyone by like putting everything
Sure,
on
yeah.
a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't saying it would work in the mid round. It's more that like this
Yeah.
sidesteps the lack of freeze time communication in a way where it's still wrote, like it's literally on the piece of paper. It's not going to be reflexive and adaptive to what happened in the game. That's why you rely on those mid rounds or those timeouts. But
Yeah, that's tough because you still can like a lot of it is also calling things at the right time. Like I can have like 10 strats and I can like run those same strats for a while because even if another team knows about every single strat, if I structure them the right way and I have like the right timings and the right utility,
absolutely,
like they're not going to know what to expect and like when to actually expect it. So it's more just like I feel like if you can't call that in freeze time, it still is like not really making that much of a difference just because you can only script you can script rounds, and I'm sure some teams do that. You script like your first 3 rounds, like your first gun round before like what you're gonna do, maybe even like your second gun round. But after like a certain point, you kind of just can't really do that anymore because the game is just adapting too much, and if you're trying to stick to something, you're just not like maybe adapting in the right way, or whatever. So yeah, I can see why. I could still see Valve just being like, no, you're not allowed to have strats on a paper in front of you.
Yeah, well,
that's not allowed
it
anymore.
feels silly. Like I do wish we had just gotten past that and said like, okay, coaches can also talk during freeze time or whatever. But like, and then this wouldn't be as much of a problem. But it feels weird because it in my head, the reason Valve has done this is partially because of that silly thing about some teams won't have coaches, and partially because coaches were having too much of an impact on the game itself, and they wanted to be restricted to timeouts. But they're not restricted to timeouts if they can essentially have these pieces of paper.
I mean,
which
they
also
are though,
aren't
'cause
just coaches. But
that's stuff that's prepped before the game. So I mean,
Yeah.
you are restricted to timeouts though. Like, what's like?
It
the
depends
thing
on
is,
what's on
like,
the paper, and it depends on how well drilled they are. And yeah, that is technically outside preparation.
but
I'm just
it's
wondering
written on
at
the
what
paper
point.
before the match.
Yeah, but at what
Like,
point do we draw the line and say like this is exactly how far you can go in terms of out of game things affecting the game? And the paper isn't in the game, obviously.
You either ban the paper across the board or you don't. But
Yeah.
the thing is that like you have teams who don't have coaches who also have strat books like that,
Sure,
and they
yeah.
have physical books or like physical notepads like that. So like it's not something that's only done by coaches, and a lot of the times like IGLs will work with their coaches to like come up with those strat books.
Yeah.
So to me, like it's not really like a coach thing exclusively or necessarily even like close to 70% or whatever. Like I think having playbooks on the table like that, whether it be like done by the coach or not, is just a net benefit to like us as viewers. I don't think
I'm
it
not
takes
arguing
away
against it.
from the game or anything.
I'm more so concerned about Valve bringing the hammer down as they have been against things that they perceive to be related to being coaches. I mean, it's a little bit easier to make that argument when they're literally just like celebrating in the background, and that's now no longer allowed at Valve events or whatever. But you get what I'm saying is that like if the biggest example of this happening at tier 1 is Navi with Blade, then people are going to be, it's easy for them to draw conclusions that this is downstream of the coach and therefore might need to be removed. It's not really related to the Patreon question, but I was just curious about what people thought about it.
You guys want to talk about Cologne, or do you want
to?
Let's see. Well, I don't know. That was kind of. Wait. What was your essential question with that? Really quick.
Just how do we think that the strat books on top of the desk next to the keyboards and stuff are a lasting feature, or if they're going to be removed? Or
okay, yeah, right. I would hope it is, because I think it just takes some of the. I mean, it adds more to preparation. It probably adds to even higher tier Counter-Strike being played. But I understand how Valve has, laid down the law on being anti-coach before, and this seems like a nice workaround that I almost kind of just hope Valve's not paying attention enough to, that they're gonna do anything negative to it. So that's where I'm at with that. Let's just see. Okay, basically, I only wanted to bring up Cologne because I actually got to meet Pythrower for the first time, and just wanted to give him. And maybe this is actually intertwined with my shout out, that it's pretty entertaining to be around. So
great guy.
Shouts out. You guys haven't met him, have you?
I
met him?
have.
Oh, you
Yeah,
have.
I met him twice.
Oh, okay. Where'd you meet him?
Philadelphia was last time. I think Frag 15.
Okay.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
really nice. Really, really good guy.
Yeah. Either way, it's usually nice to just see NA folk.
He is also as funny in person as he is on Twitter.
Yeah, he's pretty. He was pretty. We were just cracking jokes back and forth pretty constantly.
Yeah.
That's my Cologne story. No, actually, I'll give you guys just like a little feel of what it was like. This was basically like an event that was like a major, by the way. Like this is like people are not really kidding when they say Cologne is like, just one of the prestige events of the year. I wasn't there for the Katowice playoffs. People told me the crowd was not as good, but that Cologne crowd pretty much matched what they had at the major, with the exception that the major was almost like a convention or like a fair in that anywhere we went in Antwerp during the major was just packed with fans. There were so many people out and about, where I don't know why, but in Cologne it didn't have that exact same feeling. Where when we walked around, I think it's kind of like this. Where we were in Cologne was basically like kind of isolated. Like the hotel we were at was a little bit far away from everything. Whereas at the major, our hotel was right there at the city square center. And so there's reason for fans to be there beyond just to be near our hotel. So the major had more of like a fanatic type of feeling, not the team, but like the the vibe, the atmosphere was very ultra, very fanatic style. But the Cologne, once you're out of the arena, it didn't necessarily feel like you were in the midst of it anymore, whereas the major did. So that's kind of my comment, but like there were still like 14,000 or something people in the Lanxess arena, and the major had something like a similar 18 to 20,000 people in the arena, apparently, from numbers that I've heard thrown around. So yeah, this, like, if you ever have a chance to go to a Cologne, and let's say you're like, oh, I want to go to like one CS event per year, I would pretty much just say any of the two majors and then Cologne. I'd like want to rate Katowice that highly, but I just don't know, so I can't really tell you. But I hear it's good, but also people told me Cologne's even better. So yeah, just remarking upon that in case people are kind of like considering in the future what to do with their time.
Why do you hate Poland, Alex?
In fact, I really don't. I like that when I'm there, I get to
No,
save
I
a
was
lot of
just
money.
kidding.
I
Cologne and Katowice are two events I really want to go to at some point. So I think that's it's a good plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Beyond that, let's wrap this up. Let's do some shout outs. Mix, who is your shout out?
We go OC winning the 1v3 with a rifle on Inferno.
Oh my god. Yo, was that the highlight of the tournament?
For me,
It might have been.
I'd say it is. I'd say it was.
No
I think
NA
that was
bias,
such a
by the
clean
way.
clutch.
Well,
Such a clean.
I
No,
think
the
it was
thing
even
is-
better than the Twist's clutch.
Yeah.
I think the Twist 1v3 on Overpass was not as good as the OC one. The OC one, like, he had to do everything by himself there, whereas the Twist one, kind of by the nature of the way that situation broke down, was a little bit easier. It was easy. It was easier. It was easier to play than the OC one. He literally first bulleted all three of them. Like I didn't watch it back yet in slow mo, but I am 90% certain every kill was first bullet. Maybe the last one was second bullet. So that was insane.
The only other moment that comes close to the OC one for me is and I guess this will be my shout out since we're shouting out plays, is definitely the Twist's drop off Marshmallow to one bullet electronic. The fact that like by itself, it just looks like electronic misplayed or just didn't hear for some other reason. But when you add in the context where he had some comment, I can't remember where it was. It might have been HLTV confirmed, where he said that that's a legitimate strategy where they deliberately knew that he might be there. And if they do this way, he won't be able to hear the steps or something. When that extra context comes out, that's what makes it like, I like tactical CS, obviously. I like the whole idea that you can anti-strat at the top level, and in these like do or die moments where it's neck and neck and in grand finals, crazy circumstances, that's when you bring it out and you surprise them. that was what made the whole event even sweeter for me in that sense. Is like, okay, these guys, they didn't just play mechanically well, which they did. They also really did understand their opponent and really did anti-strat them to a successful degree. So that was pretty good to me.
That strat is also called Canada, by the way. By FaZe.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was close dropping top mini.
That's fun. No, what is your shout out then?
I don't have a shout out prepared today. You know what? Shout out me. Follow me on Twitter.
There we go.
Selfless plug. All right.
That's valid.
Shameless and selfless. I guess I'll just shout out the player break. I'm enjoying this time a lot, actually. Shouts out to having a player break because CSPPA doesn't do a lot of great stuff, but it's nice to have a month off for all of our mental health, and so we can focus on other things going on in our lives. And that's kind of be it for me, actually. I don't think we have anything else to say. Shouts out to the patrons, I guess, on top of that. Make sure to obviously subscribe on Patreon if you want to get some questions in. And for people that watch this on YouTube, give feedback on what you thought about this format, because this is just something I kind of threw out there. I had this idea last week, and I was like, this would be kind of fun to do it. And we did it. And if you'd rather get a normal recap show, say that. If you'd rather this kind of show sometimes, say that too. Like, I want to hear the opinions. I want to hear why. If you just say we're shit, I'll probably block you. So don't do that, you know? But if you say we're great, I'm going to leave that, even though there's no real difference in terms of what kind of delivery you exercise right there. But that's going to be it, guys. That's going to be it. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Mix has got a Valorant team to coach.
Yeah. Well, I will also say Fearsock has just recently upped his tier to Legend. So thanks to him. Shout out him.
Oh, shouts out Fearsock.
Yeah, there we go.
He's I think the longest time patron. I think him, Adam, and Bill are pretty much the guys that are like always there.
Yeah.
So they're our heroes. Shouts out to all three of them. And peace, guys. Peace.